You are now tuned into the smooth sounds of TMG. I'm your host, the Marcus Garrett.
Pass me the water.
You want water?
Let me say, like, do y'all want to drop a line? Like, don't feel like y'all gotta go on video for me. Like, I can pull the sound from this. Do y'all want me to just drop it as a podcast?
Oh, it doesn't matter. We're fine.
Good, you know.
Okay, I didn't want y'all. You're like,
we gotta give you shining out here.
Exactly.
Yeah. Marcus putting all this pressure on this man. All right. Welcome to the Marcus Garrett Show, where every week we have entertaining conversations with your favorite influencers and entrepreneurs about life after debt. I've got Angie and RJ here from Rich by Intention. I'm humbled that they joined me on the show with their coming up on 19,000 followers. So, you know, I'm in the presence of greatness right now, as they say. Why don't y'all tell the listening audience a little bit about yourselves?
Yeah, so I'm RJ, and this is my beautiful wife, Angie. And, you know, our whole message is everything starts with intention. We are the brand Rich by Intention, and we paid off $123,000 in student loan debt in 1 year. And it really took us doing everything we can to pay it off and working as a team. And our whole brand is about money and marriage and just working together to create and build your legacy and to build wealth and to really just change lives.
So what inspired, I know y'all have a little one. Was that the one reason that made the decision, or was it for y'all, for, you know, them? Kind of what, $120,000 is a big change. So like, we're done with this. What was that inspiration?
Yeah, so we actually paid off our 6-figure student loan debt before we had our daughter. So this was something that we had made the decision to do after we got married. So literally, we came back from our honeymoon and we said, literally the day we came back from our honeymoon, we said, we are paying this off and we are going to find by any means necessary, right, to figure out how we can pay down this debt as soon as possible. So yeah, it was definitely before we had our little girl, but it's definitely motivation, right? Like just thinking about the future we wanted for our family. So despite us not having children yet, she was a big driving force. Our future children were a big driving force as to why we wanted to get our financial health in order after we got married.
So I think y'all on the show, I know somebody that paid off, I want to say $278,000. It was a lawyer. So y'all might break the record for the person that I've interviewed with the highest debt. So what tips would you offer somebody, RJ, I'll kick this over to you, for people who want to get started? Either, I'm assuming most people, the average student loan debt is around $30,000. I think the average household debt, not including home, is credit cards is like $6,000 to $9,000. So let's say $40,000. Where should people get started? With a book, inspiration, podcast? Where should people go?
Yeah, so for us, the two books that kind of, you know, spurred our decision to pay off debt was Rich Dad Poor Dad and Millionaire Next Door. And those are the first personal finance books that we read prior to we getting married. And it really just gave us a mindset shift. Our goal was, you know, as we were approaching to get married was, you know, money is one of the major reasons why people get divorced. And we didn't want to have tough money conversations on a regular basis. So, you know, definitely education was definitely important, and also just getting on the same page. So before we got married, we made sure that, you know, we had the same values. We made sure that we as individuals got our finances together. So I was actively paying off debt, credit card debt in my car, and Angie was doing the same thing. So by the time we came together, we already had the same mindset. So it's important just to do the little steps, right? So it was getting our credit together, paying off our credit card, paying off
our car,
you know, budgeting, right? Budgeting was something that I didn't necessarily do. Angie did it more than me. And I started to just adopt budgeting into my everyday lifestyle, and also just be self-aware of like where all my money is going, where's all my debt, and just know my numbers. And that's really important. Like, you can't make a decision until you know where you are financially. And once you know where you're financially, the most important thing is to take action and take the next steps.
So now I'm going to pivot a little bit. Y'all said y'all were having these proactive conversations. Sound like even before you got married, you paid off the debt before you had the child. So for couples, what advice would you give to approach that conversation constructively? I know you can approach that conversation destructively. So I'm imagining what lessons learned, because I would think y'all had some difficult conversations. Maybe they were all easy for you. So what tips would you offer there?
Yeah, no, I would say that, obviously, I think talking about money in general is taboo, right? Like, people are uncomfortable talking about their money situations as a whole. So like, I think when you enter into a partnership with someone, it doesn't make it easy, right, to kind of be vulnerable in that way. But like RJ said, early on in our dating relationship, we were very intentional about the conversations we had. We knew where we wanted to go. We knew that we were pursuing marriage, so we got serious about our conversations very early on. And, just overall, like, RJ said that, he had the lion's share of the debt, right? And so this was a huge burden on him, right? Because it was heavy on his heart. Like, he was almost, would you say, like, I don't know, embarrassed by the amount of debt that
to be honest, like, full transparency, like, I felt like a failure having so much debt.
Yeah.
Although I had a degree and, I had a job, I just felt like a failure. Like, how did I make such a decision to accumulate so much debt and not really think of the ramifications later?
Yeah. So I think it was easy for us to have those conversations because RJ was already just feeling, just overwhelmed by the amount of debt that he had. So, from there, we like, okay, so how do we kind of take action around this? Like, how do we kind of, like he said, have that mindset shift to learn how do we kind of manage the debt that we have to, tackle. And so, I think for couples, our advice is to get educated together, right? Read books together. So RJ mentioned we read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Millionaire Next Door very early in our relationship. Like, we were probably, I don't know, less than a year in when we started reading these books together. And it wasn't that he was just reading it or I was just reading it. We read them together. We had the Audible, like, listening to it. And then we would have conversations about it after, really discussing about the things that we learned and what we would do as individuals first to kind of get our finances in order. And so I think all of those conversations, all of the education that we got from the books, from podcasts that we listened to, really helped us open up the conversation to how we were going to tackle our debt as a team once we were married.
So I have 2 follow-up questions then. I'll ask them in order because I only wrote one down and I'll forget it. So for the people who, so some people are going to be listening to this on the podcast. They can watch on the video as well. Which podcast were you listening to that helped with your journey?
Yeah, so I would say, a big one, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, is, Dave Ramsey, right? So he was one that we listened to early on, just kind of learning about his methods, with full transparency, some of his methods didn't necessarily resonate with us, but we did take some things that he advises and put it as a part of our plan. So we kind of mix and mingled different concepts.
Yeah, we also listened to like Bigger Pockets Money.
Yes.
And then it was just, YouTube resources of different things. And we took, the best things that resonated with us and applied it in our everyday life. So it was a mixture of multiple podcasts and audibles and books that we used together. So we just tried to absorb as much as we can. Once we got Audible, this is probably back in like 2013, 14, we just loved the Audible experience because we both were commuting into the city.
Long hours.
So we just, plugged and play, and then, we would just talk about it after.